Hi, it's odeean here. Today I'm having a look at a model kit. So this model is from Yamato 2199 of the analyzer unit. I did buy this model from bbts, that's why there's a Starblazers 2199 sticker put over the top. A little bit annoyed at that because this is an awesome piece of artwork showing analyzer using his little thrusters to move around out in space. Maybe it's inside the ship. It's a bit hard to tell, but it's painted really nice. It looks like an actual painting, I think. I would buy a poster of that. I just love the way that looks, but it is marred a bit by the sticker. Now, I'm calling him Analyzer. That's if you watch the Japanese show. In the West, Analyzer is known as IQ9. So this is a kit of Starblazers IQ9. Inside the box, we get a couple of things. The first one is this explanation / instruction booklet. Pretty standard model making stuff in there. On the back, it has got a really useful color guide if you want to paint Analyzer up to look exactly like it does in this picture. Now, I got to admit, I have no skills whatsoever at painting models and virtually none at building them. So it's a little bit hard for me to achieve this. I haven't done that. All I've done is snap together the parts as they come out of the box. We also get this advertisement for other models, like model kit lineup in the Starblazers 2199 series. Having a look in there, some of these look really fantastic. Now they are painted. When you buy them, they don't look this way. You'd have to do that yourself. So it's easy to get carried away with how nice they are. I don't think I'd be able to achieve those results. What's really interesting to me is this full scale, it actually says full scale over there, full scale picture of the 1/500th scale Yamato, which is, this picture is huge. Like, I'm holding my arms apart here. This is a really, really big picture. So if the actual toy is that big, I'm very tempted to pick it up. But as I said, my skills aren't that great, so I probably end up disappointed. But if I can get this at a good price, I think I'm going to try and do it. Now to the main attraction, Analyzer. So he's a really nice looking model kit. Anyone who doesn't know much about Bandai are kind of the king of model making technology. Now within this kit, all these pieces came on several sprues, and some of those were injected with 3 or 4 different kinds of plastic on the one sprue, which is really advanced manufacturing and engineering for model kits, and there's not that many other companies out there who can pull it off at such a high degree of quality. To build this, I used virtually no tools. The only tools that I had were a pair of scissors, fingernail clippers to just trim some of the little bits of flash off where the sprues are connected, and I had an old pocket knife with a file that I used to just smooth down those trim points a bit. But you know, virtually nothing. It took about 2 hours to clip up and then stick together. Now, it didn't require any glue. All the parts just fit together very neatly, and most of the joining points where they clip off are pretty inconspicuous. Like, they don't end up being huge blemishes on the figure. Like, if you want to see one, for example, you'll see down here, that little white mark is a point where I've clipped this off. Again, down on the bottom of this, you can see a little white mark. So really very minimal. If you take a little bit of care in what you're doing, the toy can come out looking pretty fantastic. Analyzer is fully articulated, so you might have seen me just moving him then, but he does have these shoulders. Now, they can come off a little bit easily, but that's because this is not a toy. This is still a model kit. It's got these kind of softer plastic sleeves over the ball joint there. It's like a little bit rubberized, it feels like, and the socket on the shoulder is kind of like a cup. Now, they've left it with as much range as possible, and that's probably one of the reasons it can come off a little bit easy. But it holds itself. You don't have to worry about it falling off. It's only posing it. Just be a little bit cautious. One downside with it being a model is that you get this kind of thing happening. Now, there's no locking mechanism to hold that thigh swivel in, just friction. So yeah, it's definitely not a toy, but it looks like a toy, but you know, it is still at heart a model kit. In the show, Analyzer is able to split apart at the waist here. Now, he can do it, and I'm going to do it to show you, but it's not really meant to come apart. This is kind of a friction peg that's meant to permanently lock that part in, so I'm not going to keep doing that. Now, the head unit does come off a little bit easier, and that's because on the inside here you can see that cavity is designed to take one of those standard light units that Bandai use for their, I'm blanking on the name, Gundam. So those lights go in Gundam models. It can just pop in there and you can choose whichever color you like. Like I chose yellow. I haven't got it yet, but I just bought one off eBay, a yellow one. So I'm going to be able to have like yellow light, a glow coming through these eye sockets here because there's clear plastic there, and clear plastic through these eyes at the front and the control panel. He comes with a few extra bits and pieces, so you can see I haven't snipped these off yet, but this is what is required to put together his alternate hands, and that's just like a closed fist hand. I'm just going to leave those. I've got no real use for them. We also get this sprue of harder clear plastic. Now I haven't taken these off yet because, as I said, I don't really have proper tools, and because this is a harder plastic, I didn't want to make ugly stress marks all over the clear bits, so I need to get something very fine to cut these off with. But these are like little vectoring thrusters, and I mean, you can kind of see where it's going to peg up into the back of his body there. These rocket nozzles, it can peg into there, and also on the front of his shoulders or the back of his shoulders. So that's how he maneuvers around in space, just by shooting little jets out, and you get enough to cover all those holes. Now on the box, these are tinted blue, but they're not. They're clear tinted, and you would have to treat them yourself with some kind of see-through coat to make them look blue, I think. The box also includes this stand. It's a pretty basic stand, and actually I'm a bit put off by these swirls in the black plastic. It's a little bit cheap compared to the rest of the construction. I don't know why that has happened. This is his vertical standing mode. You can just peg this underneath like that and it will hold the figure up. If you want him to get any kind of crazy poses happening, this is the way you would do it on the stand. Now it is a bit loose. You can see there that as I move it around, he does have a bit of wobble, and I'm not too happy with that. I would like it to be more solid. There doesn't seem to be a way to make it more solid, short of putting glue or blue tack or maybe masking tape in that hole. So that's a little bit of annoyance. But where it gets more annoying is that this pops off, and there's an alternate piece that snaps on. Now this is meant to hold him in a flying pose like that, but there's no way I'm going to leave that very loose connection on the shelf in this pose, because I don't want him falling off and breaking on the floor. So if they intended to have him more horizontal like that, they really should have made a more secure socket. I mean, I don't build models, as I said. Maybe there's some kind of sleeve you can buy to put over that to make it fit tighter, but I don't have it. For size comparison, the first thing I'm going to show is IQ9. Now, if you remember, a few months ago I reviewed this because I found it in some of my old stuff. This is my only other Analyzer / IQ9 toy, this little wind-up guy. I've had this almost my entire life, and finally I have a better version of the character. You can see he's a lot bigger. Here's a comparison with Generation Swerve, something that probably a lot of people have at the moment. So he's bigger than one of these big Legends size. I don't even know if these are really Legends anymore. Bigger than basic size. And here next to Masterpiece Rumble. And next to Orion. Now I show him next to Orion because I think Orion's about 8 inches. If I'm correct, there are some 8-inch girl figures from Yamato's, from Bandai's Yamato 2199 line. So it would put them at about his height next to Analyzer. That does not seem right to me. I always thought Analyzer was about the same height as a person. So they're calling him 1/12 scale Analyzer, but I question whether he really is 1/12 scale. Unless there's a line of smaller characters that I just haven't seen. Maybe it would go better with a Star Wars size figure. Yeah, I guess when I get it down to a more normal size figure, it does start to look right, but I take my cues from the original Star Blazers. That's where I remember the character mostly shown, and I seem to remember him being the same height. I could be wrong. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I really like the character of IQ9. I particularly like where he falls in love, and there's, what's the girl's name? I think it's Nova. He has a whole episode where he falls in love with Nova, and they crash land in their spaceship. He really endeared himself to me in that episode, and he goes on to explain how he's programmed to have the same emotions as people, and then just because he's a robot doesn't mean he can't feel things. So I've always liked the character, and now it's really making me start to want some figures of the other characters at this size. My final thoughts. This is a really nice toy, particularly because it's only $21 over at bbts. I've been in the market for a decent analyzer for a really long time. I've always wanted one, but just didn't want to spend the huge amounts on the ones that are out there. So I know that there's a Banpresto which can hardly move, and I see that going for between 150 and 200 sometimes. So that's like just totally out of the range I want to pay for it. There's another diecast one that's more like a chogokin. I'm just blanking on the name now. I think it sounds like Omar or something like that. It might even be made by the same company that do that wind-up one that I just showed a moment ago. But again, that's hundreds of dollars. This guy clocking in at $21 and only 2 hours worth of work, and you end up with something that's highly posable, looks pretty good straight out of the box. It's really good value, and anyone who likes the character or even just the show probably would do themselves a favor just going and picking him up while you still can. And having seen the toy now and realizing how good it is very strange how poorly bbts are selling this guy. If you go over to the listing on their site, all they show is an old picture of a grey proto, and they don't tell anything else about it. They don't mention that it comes in all the correct colors, is easy to build, looks fantastic. They don't mention the size. They just say 1/12, but if you don't know how big Analyzer is, 1/12 doesn't really mean anything. So if those guys want to move their stock, they need to get some better pictures of this toy out there, because I think if more people could actually see how good it looks after you've built it, they would already be sold out. So anyway, I really like this. I think it's great value. The first thing I did after building this was I went and bought another one. Now I don't have it yet, but I thought I'm not going to pull this apart because I don't want to, my skills are crap, basically. I don't want to butcher this one. So I bought another one so I can at least try to paint it up how it's meant to be painted, because, he's supposed to have like those rims around the eyes there. They should all be silver. He needs like just everything. These tracks should be kind of brown with metallic, like dry brushing over it or something. So I would like to at least have a go of making him look good, but I want to do that on an extra one. So anyway, I really like it. As I said, this has been my video review for the Analyzer from Yamato 2199, aka Star Blazers IQ9. I'm odeean. Thank you for watching.